If your sleep paralysis demon looks like this, or perhaps you feel a deep feeling of dread at the idea of designing logos or trying to figure out which logo design is the final, you might be even feeling scared to try because you don't think that you would be good at it, then you're in the right place. Today, I'm gonna help it feel a little bit less scary and give you some tips on how to overall improve your logo design, as well as find a process that is fun and exciting to you. I will also be ideating and showing you an example in real time. Let's dive in. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Alex, and yes, today I do have my mic on a threek. That is right, this is a threek. I am a brand designer and overall just graphic designer, collage artist. I don't really like to go by one thing. I know how stressful it can be to teach yourself design without a formal education, or maybe you did get a formal education, but it didn't feel like it covered all of the bases for real world design. So that's where I come in, and that's where I'm here to help. How do I even start? If anything sticks with you from this video, it should be that good design begins with good strategy. I'm going to be talking about it a lot in this video, so if you don't want to hear it, I'm sorry. I know it's annoying sometimes because we just want to make things that look cute and look fun. This is going to be the foundation for your entire design. I always start with a really messy brainstorm. I like to just get all of my ideas out first, and it's not really in an organized way. I think this is where people start in a different position. Some people really prefer to use like word maps where you write out a bunch of words and then you go from there. Some people like to just begin sketching. Personally, I like to start on paper, and the reason for that is actually that I prefer to have original ideas first. Sometimes when I look at reference images first, or I start on my computer, I feel like my mind is just a little bit limited by what I'm already seeing. I don't want to be restricted by my idea of what other people have already done. I want to be able to sketch and iterate really quickly and just be able to spew all of my thoughts. All right, so let's do an example. The brand that I'm going to be doing today is a community garden because I love community gardens so much. The one that I came up with is called Good Mood Community Garden. The foundational strategy of this concept is that community gardens are supposed to be fun and be a place where people can go and enjoy themselves. The insight there is that, especially when it's an environmental stewardship behavior, people really get pulled in by positive messaging. And so we'll be using that a little bit when we come up with our logo. So I'm going to just start with a word map, and I'm just going to write down all of my different ideas, just branching off from the brand name, thinking about all the different areas that it kind of covers, whether that's the idea of being in a good mood or all of the different aspects of a community garden. I'm thinking about different hand expressions and hand gestures, even the kinds of expression like maybe dancing, and I'm branching off from there. It does not have to look like a map like this. It can be a list, it can be all over the page, it can be whatever you want. You don't even have to do a word map. This just helps me figure out my ideas. I will not filter myself in the beginning because I think that when we start to filter ourselves, we inhibit ourselves from coming up with the good ideas. Sometimes the bad ideas lead to the good ones. I think when I start designing logos, I start with basic shapes. Maybe that's like somewhat basic shapes like the outline of a plant, or maybe it's like literally circles and squares. And I try to figure out how to represent my ideas with those basic shapes. Sometimes I will draw out the shapes that represent different aspects of the brand. Then I can combine them and I can see what different aspects of those, maybe what curves kind of imitate the other, how they can fit into one another, how they can maybe stack or play together, how I can combine them into one. But also sometimes I think you can get a little bit too literal when you're doing that. And sometimes I think the best logo designs kind of represent something a little bit more abstract. I'm pulling all of the different words here that speak to me or that stand out a little bit, that I feel like capture my brand's essence and that I feel like would be helpful in designing my logo. I am just gonna start sketching out some ideas that I'm getting from here. I really like how Good Mood looks kind of stacked above each other because they each have the two O's and the D that kind of align really perfectly, especially if I squish this M a little bit to make it a little smaller. In community gardens, they have a lot of garden beds where people can rent them out. So I like the idea of garden beds being maybe part of like a modular design. Maybe I put the letters in the blocks, maybe I put just little icons and use them down the align in the rest of the branding. It's good to be thinking about how you're going to use some of the elements of your logo design throughout the rest of your visual identity. I thought of the idea of doing a plant in the shape of like a smiley face. The plant curving over almost looks like eyebrows, and I really didn't like this idea that much, but you never know where an idea is going to take you, so it's not the worst thing in the world to go ahead and put it on the page. I kind of played around with this idea of like a plant dancing, and I like that it had this expression to it, this movement, and I felt like it kind of embodied the movement and joy of the community garden. I started playing with outlines of the letters and maybe having some of the fruits and vegetables from the garden act as some of the letters themselves, or maybe go outside the edge of the letters. I thought that could be interesting to play with, mainly because community gardens, like one of the biggest focuses they have is on food and food sovereignty. And then I had this idea to do a little shovel with a smiley face on it, almost as like a little character for the brand. Again, was not really enthusiastic about any of these and knew I had to keep going, though I did love the modular system. Eventually, I came up with this idea of the green thumb because I was thinking about the symbol of a thumbs up and people being green thumbs and how cute it would be to have a little thumbs up symbol with a sprout growing out of it. I like the idea of it being a little curvier. That adds a lot of personality and like organic feeling to it. And then I thought I could play around with this in different ways where I could maybe like extend the arm, extend the thumb, extend the plant. There's a lot of different ways that I could change up this logo just a little bit to have it fit in different spaces. I really like my ideas, and I feel like I have a couple really solid ones that I would feel really confident presenting to a client. So I'm comfortable stopping here. Now that I have all of my different sketches and ideas laid out, I really kind of want to just pull in some other inspo photos to help me refine my design a little bit more. It can be difficult sometimes to juggle all of the different tools that you need to be using for mood boarding, as well as starting to build out your logo design and vectorizing it. I want to be able to start designing my vector version with my mood board and all of my sketches and have it all on the same page. So I'm going to pull all of my sketches into Kittl. Kittl is so kindly sponsoring this video. They have a ton of different images and templates and stuff, as well as a new pen tool where I can start actually vectorizing my stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on picking out a font and vectorizing everything. I took some photos of my sketches and I'm just gonna bring those in. I'm gonna try and get some ideas about how people are drawing these thumbs and hands, because that is not my specialty. Here's a good example. I really like this thumb and how that's looking. This is cute. The thing that I like about all of these illustrations is that they have a lot of personality to them. That is so cute. I love the texture on that. I feel like maybe we'll start to add some texture. I'm also gonna go ahead and pick a font. Finding a font can be really difficult. I feel like they have so many cute fonts on here. That is so cute. Maybe I'll even go with like a script font, because I feel like that could be kind of cool for this project too. This could take like a decade for me to get through all of these, and there are just so many good ones. But this is what happens when I'm looking for fonts. I just want to do a million different projects, and that's partially why I start with my own idea of what I want. It connects back to the strategy. I narrowed it down to these two fonts, and I pulled over my illustrations so that I can start to build this out. I am going to make my own version of this illustration. It'll be super easy with the pen tool, and I'm gonna go in and edit my actual text as well and build out a few different variations of my logo. You can find the pen tool at the bottom bar or press P. I'm a shortcut type of gal. You can just click to place anchor points, and you can move them around super easily by just clicking them and dragging them. They also have adjustable handles if you don't like how you originally placed it. The pen tool is just super helpful for creating vector logos, illustrating, and even customizing your font to create really professional branding. Here is my final logo design. I am so happy with it. If you're interested in using Kittl to make the ideating, vectorizing, finding fonts process easier, you can actually try Kittl today for free. When you're ready to upgrade, you can use my code ALEXAYT for a 25% off on all plans. There's a link in the description. Shout out Kittl! Let's talk really quickly about what makes a good logo. A good logo is going to be recognizable and distinct. A good logo is going to stand out and be memorable, and people are going to be able to recognize it. You don't want something that feels too similar to what other brands have done. Different brands are going to have different needs, but I would say like a general rule of thumb is good logos can capture the essence of the brand in as few elements as possible. I think that's another thing that stresses people out, is getting to the point where the logo feels like it has everything and is as simple as possible. But I think as you continue to push your ideas, you'll be able to develop something that embodies it more. It just takes a lot of thinking and a lot of time for your ideas to brew. Another trait of a good logo is that it's adaptable and responsive. So that would be a logo that can fit into different touch points of your brand. And by touch points, I mean different collateral or digital assets or different places where your brand is going to show up, either digitally or physically. For example, an Instagram profile picture, as well as a business card, as well as a website homepage. A key for doing this is having a logo that works more horizontally, a logo that works more vertically. Sometimes I like to even have a logo that is specifically designed to fit in a circle, just because social media is such a big part of brands these days. Another like sub point of that is that it should also be able to work in monochrome. Another quality of a good logo is that it connects to your strategy. So your brand strategy is present in your logo. You can tell what the brand is about. It communicates the personality well, and it overall just embodies the brand strategy really well. And then the last thing that makes a good logo, in my opinion, is the client likes it. If the client likes the logo, then it's a good one sometimes, okay? Sometimes the client's gonna like different things than you, and sometimes you may not like the finished product, but if it checks all the other boxes, like it works with the strategy and it's adaptable and the client likes it, then it's a good logo and you can move on. Here are a few other tips that can also help improve your logo design. The first is that there is an optical illusion with black and white designs. So what I mean by that is that black looks smaller on white than white looks on black. So if you look at these two different logos, they look like different sizes, and that is an optical illusion. They are the same size. So a way to make a better logo is to adjust your black logo to be either a little bit bigger or your white logo to be a little bit smaller. A lot of the times you can just offset the path if it's a simpler logo, or you can go in manually and adjust different points. Another tip that I have is to customize your fonts. Instead of just having a simple font, you can go in with the pen tool and you can change the font up so that some of the areas of the font are different. You can customize it so that you can create different shapes with it. Maybe you even connect your font to your logo in ways. Another thing that can help you get better as a logo designer is thinking about the brand name and your actual brand mark, or like the icon that represents your brand holistically. So being able to think about how they work together as opposed to like two individual ideas or different aspects of your brand. A lot of that could be during the sketching process, where you're looking at how do these letters combine with this symbol? How can I fit them into different shapes? Another tip I have for good logos relates to the adaptability. Having a logo that can really shapeshift with different aspects of the brand, where a brand can kind of use it with different imagery or use different versions of this logo in a lot of different contexts, can be really helpful. Instead of just having one or two versions of the logo that they kind of put on everything, it can be really cool for a brand to play around with a logo that they can shape shift a little bit and fit to the individual needs. I think what makes a good logo is that it's timeless. I'm not anti-trend, but I don't really see trends as that important in the design world. I think that they're more like aesthetic, surface level things. I think it's good for your brand to have a sense of relevance to our current culture and what's going on, but I just don't think trends are worth using in your logo design. Don't fall into the trend trap. Get out of there. I don't think that being a good logo designer is knowing all of the different techniques and tools. I think that a lot of what makes a good logo is in the strategy, and I'm going to circle back because I told you that I would talk a lot about this. Make sure that what you're designing can be connected back to it. If you're feeling nervous about designing logos, that can be a really good starting point for coming up with ideas. Another tip that I have is adjusting the spacing between all the letters, or as it's called, called in the design world the kerning, just to make it look a little bit more professional. I also don't usually do this all in one sitting. It's really rare that I will come up with my final design within 1 hour of working on it. I'll be like kind of letting it brew while I do other things. A lot of my ideas I come up with in the car or in the shower. That's why I always have my magical little pocket notebook on me so that I can write my ideas down wherever I am. One thing I would say to do when you're done with your logo is to double check that it is original. We have a recollection bias, so it's good to just double check that your logo is original. To wrap this up, how do you know when your final logo design is the right one? We sometimes underestimate the experience that we have. We start to lose trust in our design intuition, and we start to overthink things. Is this good at all? As much as you can, tie it back to the strategy that will really help define for you if it's a good logo or not. I think people get really overwhelmed with logo design because it feels like you're trying to squeeze so much into one. If you can find something that represents the brand's essence, it doesn't have to cover literally everything. And another thing, as creative people, we put a lot of care and like personal interest into what we design. A lot of the times we're really invested in the things that we create. We kind of fall into this perfectionism trap, which I honestly think is a social construct. That's like a whole other conversation. We want our designs to reflect us as designers, and we want to put things that we are proud of making in our portfolios. We want to share those with people because design is very personal. But at the end of the day, our job is as designers to finish the project under a certain budget and make the client happy and then be done with it. If you break it down by your hourly rate or your ideal hourly rate that you would need to earn in order to pay your rent, then that's the amount of hours that you can allot to this portion of the project. Being able to set a timer on it in that way can be really helpful, and it can help us create boundaries around our work. It really helps for me when I'm working on something. It helps put a limit on it because I know that I'm compromising my rate. And as long as the client likes it and approves it and it fits with the strategy and kind of checks all these other logo design boxes, then I think that you're good to go. The reality is that you probably won't find the absolute best logo out there. I'm just being honest. Like, you're going to continue to grow as a designer and you're going to get better with time. Your style is going to be different than other people, so your approach is going to be different than other people, and that's what makes your capabilities unique. Don't get too stuck on this idea of permanence or finding the absolute best, because it'll just get in the way of creating a good idea. It takes time to get better at logo design specifically. It's like a whole other ball game. So give yourself some grace and get lots of practice. If you're interested in trying Kittl today, you can use my code AlexAYT for 25% off all Kittl plans. There will also be a link in my description for you to check that out. Please subscribe and like this video if you want more content like this, and I will see you in the next one.